Get even more GQ this month. You need to enter a correct email address. Will be used in accordance with our privacy policy. At least she was honest. We and APO's only 2 weeks out from the special election in GEORGIA and APO's 6th Congressional District, and after narrowly losing his bid to win this thing outright in MAY and APO's jungle primary, Democratic candidate and noted hilarious slogan haver Jon Ossoff remains locked in a tight race, narrowly edging his Republican opponent, Karen Handel, in the polls by only 1 point. For those hoping to see this seat flip to the Democrats and APO's column after nearly 4 decades of Republican control, this is a promising sign, but the numbers remain well within the margin of error. TUSDAY and APO's televised debate between the two candidates, though, certainly gave Ossoff some material to work with as he tries to widen the gap between them. When the moderator asked the candidates whether they supported a national minimum wage hike, Ossoff went first, opining that too many people working 40-hour work weeks are having trouble making ends meet and that they deserve the kind of standard of living that Americans expect. THAT and APO's part of the American dream. He added, though, that the minimum wage should be indexed to the cost of living. Shockingly, ISN and APO's already that any increase should be rolled out over time to ensure that businesses AREN and APO's shocked by a sudden spike in the cost of doing business. This is a fairly centrist position that hits all the correct left-center political candidate notes, a progressive headline with a number of reasonable-sounding concessions aimed at the moderate voters HE and APO's trying to coax over to his corner. Sure. When the moderator posed the same question to Handel, though, she promptly went nuclear. Here is HANDL and APO's answer in all of its baffling, vapid, inane glory. This is an example of the fundamental difference between a liberal and a conservative. I do not support a livable sick wage. I cannot fathom why Handel decided that, leading by proudly uttering a 3-second soundbite that can be fairly summarized as the difference between me and my opponent is that he wants you to earn enough to eat, and I do not, was the right decision. I can almost hear her campaign manager and APO's horrified screams from here. What an incredible cell phone. What I support is making sure that we have an economy that is robust, with low taxes and less regulation, so that those small businesses that would be dramatically hurt if you impose higher minimum wages on them. The economic implications of raising the minimum wage are wildly complicated and depend heavily on variables like scope, magnitude, and the rate at which that increase ultimately occurs. But the evidence for this proposition that she so confidently cites as fact is at best debatable. Are able to do what they do best, grow jobs and create good-paying jobs for people in the 6th district. And good-paying jobs. Like ones that pay whispers living wage. Set aside, for just a moment, the substantive policy issue, which is, again, the subject of a reasonable and long-standing debate. In response to a question about whether she would support a gradual modest increase in the minimum wage, Karen Handel really got up there and said no. And then, for reasons known only to her God, and maybe a campaign strategist who should absolutely be fired right now, she decided that this was a good hill to die on, declaring without being prompted that the very concept of a living wage illustrates fundamental differences between her party and her opponent and APO's. There you have it, esteemed residents of GEORGIA and APO's 6th Congressional District. Your next representative in the House can either be someone who believes that in 2017, Americans who work 40 hours a week should be able to support their families, or a woman who finds that notion ridiculous. Donald Trump should have been fired by now.